What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I got a little extra footage for you guys. So basically what I'm going to be going over today is just nut and bolt checking my car. I've had a few people actually ask me what do I do for prep work when I'm getting ready for an event. Mainly what you guys see is like my prep work, as in like getting my tires mounted, whatnot, this and that. So this is basically after an event. I just go back under the car, I check everything out, I check my tires out, I see what I got to do. So it's just like a day in the life of my prep work, my real prep work. So coming to the car, one of the first things I do, especially during like an event in general, is I always check my tire wear, because you want to see where you're running at. I've been on 3 events with these Federals, and I've gotten a lot of driving time on them, and they're starting to wear on the insides. So it might be because of how my camber wear is or whatnot, but I need new Federals, so I need to get 2 new rears. After checking the rears, you definitely want to check your fronts too, just to see where you're at. Typically the fronts last a lot longer, and from here you can clearly see that these are okay, so I don't need any fronts, so that's nice. So all I got to do is basically just buy a set of rears, so that's my first thing. And then what I noticed at the event was, I think it was our last lap of the day, so it was at nighttime. It was me and Louis tandeming. I was in the back of Louis, and it was probably like the last corner or two, I noticed something like loose in my steering. So I'm just going under the car right now, and I'm actually gonna just check everything out. So when I mean everything out, I mean I'm going through my tension rod bolts, my lower control arm, my inner, my outer. You can always check wheel bearings and such too. So basically that's what I'm gonna get into right now. And I see a little wet spot somewhere, so I'm gonna check that out. That might just be from the coolant leak from before, but I don't know, I gotta just check it out. So one of the first things I like to check when I'm under the car is your tension rods here, because since I did lose my old hardware from after, like when I swapped everything over from my daily driver car that was totaled, I use like hardware, like aftermarket hardware. So I always like to check these because sometimes they do tend to get loose. So that'll be the first thing I'm gonna check, is actually, I'm gonna check motor mounts, I'm gonna check tension rods. So checking the tension rod bolts, nice and tight, that's good. So after checking my motor mount bolts, my tension rod bolts, everything was tight, so that's good. And now I'm kind of just checking my wheel bearing and my inner and outer tie rods. So typically, if you see play, I have like the slightest bit, like it's, honestly, I wouldn't even count it play. There's not really anything going on there, so that's good. I do remember I did replace all of the ball joints about like a season ago, so there shouldn't really be that much issues with that. Wheel bearing you can check, inner and outer, and I don't have any play, so that's good, at least on the passenger side. So that's all checked out. And then again, when you're under the car, you can check like your brake lines, you can check your brake pads, your rotors. My pads look great, my rotors look great. Pretty good on the passenger side. Coming to the driver's side, let's see what we got here. All the hardware's still there, so that's always good. Good to see. Because you will have times where you will be missing hardware. You're gonna be like, what the heck, where did that go? So that's not good, typically. But let's check these bad boys out, see where we're at here. That's tight. That's tight. Come up in here. Take this motor mount. That's tight. Okay. Looks good. Good also. So I'm just checking my steering joint. Like I said, I did feel a little bit of play towards my last end, so I'm just trying to check everything out here. Everything is still there, pretty kosher, pretty tight. I also did notice my oil temp gauge, my Pro Sport oil temp gauge, it started to get dim. So 2 of them are pretty bright. So my water coolant and, my coolant temp and my oil pressure are normal, like illumination, but my oil temp one, for some reason, is dim. So I'm seeing if any of the wire got pinched or overheated or anything like that, like melted, because how I do have the wires running, they do kind of run by the headers, but I did put them behind a heat shield just to make things a little bit easier and to keep them safe. But
You never know, especially with drifting. There's so much chaos going around. Things bump around and stuff that something could have got loose and touched the header or whatnot. But from what I see, everything still looks pretty kosher. So it might just be the gauge itself. It is a pretty old gauge. I've had it for like 6 years or whatnot. So checking my end links. My end links look good. That looks good. Everything's nice and tight here from the lower control arm into our knuckle. That's all tight. No leaks from the brakes. Upper control arm looks good. Coilover looks good. Brake line good. Our power steering wiring looks good. Good. No oil leaks. It's always a plus. And again, that major coolant leak that I had was on this side, and everything is it's a little dirty, but no issues at all. So these are the tension rod brackets, the L brackets that you'd call down low. Check those really quick. The ones that I had aftermarket hardware with. Oh, those are tight too, so that's good. That's good. Coolant line is good. Okay. So far, so good, guys. I'm pretty excited about it. Let's check this wheel bearing out and tension rod, or inner and outer tie rod.
There's really no play at all. Maybe a little. This one has a little bit more play than on that side, but it's very slight. Very, very slight. So should be good for the front end at least. I mean, the front end's pretty simple. When we get to the rear end, we're gonna have to check the diff bolts, drive shaft bolts, then also since I'm running an angle kit, I mean not an angle kit, the dual caliper setup, we always need to check that plate and those bolts through the back that go through the hub, just because those tend to get loose because it's a lot of vibration and a lot of RPM. So let's get to the back.
That little leak that I was thinking about, that's not coolant, that is power steering. So good thing I did come back to this side, because I was like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So if you can see that little droplet right on top there, I'm going to try to zoom in on it right there. That is leaking from the power steering pump. The power steering pump looks just dirty in general, but I think it's just leaking because that hose clamp might be just a little too loose. It's a good video, so I can actually show you guys something that actually needs to be tightened. So I just need to go ahead and tighten that clamp right there. So I'm going to wipe all that down, clean it up a little bit, and then tighten it, and then see where we're at. Okay, guys, so as you can see where our line is, so you can see all this. This is all just dirt mixed with some of that, probably that power steering that's been leaking. This is just from drifting alone, like in like a dusty, like, I mean, like, it's just how it is. It's not really good upkeep at the places where we drift because, I mean, they're parking lots that they're typically used just for parking, so people don't really care about them. But this is just like all just dirt and dust. Like, this was super clean. Like, if you guys remember me and Andrew pulling this apart and cleaning everything, so it is just crazy dirty. But going in, so you can see our lines here. Don't mind my I think this is, yeah, this is coolant temp sensor. Don't mind that. But I'm trying to get you guys down in there. See right there, that silver clip right there, that hose, that's what I got to tighten down. So that's what's been leaking a little bit. So I cleaned up everything. It's not leaking from the actual pump. It's just like from that nipple coming off the pump. So all I'm going to do is tighten that down, and it should be good to go. And I actually got into just looking up the power steering reservoir and stuff, and I saw that this line was pretty loose too, so I tightened that up. So now I should have no more power steering leak. So again, this is why we go back in and we start checking everything over, making sure that everything is kosher before we go out to our next event, because you don't want to be wasting time trying to diagnose something at the track. You want to make sure that everything's done, ready to go, and you don't want to be rushing the night before an event to make sure that everything is like that. So typically what I like to do is at least be a week or two in advance before the event actually is happening, so I can just have ease of mind that I can just put the car in the trailer and just drive and not have to worry about anything. So I know of some friends that like to wait the night before or a couple days before and try to rush and get things done. So I've
I think that just comes with experience and time just in general, because typically, like, I used to do that before. I would be cramming, trying to get ready the night before an event, and after learning that it's not fun and it's super stressful, and then you're always trying to, like, you always got it in the back of your mind when you're driving at the event, like, you're like, oh, like, did I check this, whatever. So as long as all this is said and done, ready to go, then you should be all right. First, looking at my exhaust, because since the car's lowered, it's definitely taken a beating over the last couple of events and such, but it looks pretty good. Up towards the top is the worst for sure, but that looks good. The diff looks good. I'm gonna check the axle bolts or axle nuts. So all those are checked. Another way that you can check your diff to see if it's okay, you can just spin. And if you hear any like clunking or an abnormal sound, you'll definitely know if it's messed up, or it just won't move at all. But this feels pretty good. It's got a good amount of friction. I'm looking at the drive shaft too, looking at everything moving. A little play. That's okay, that's normal. Yep. Sean Liddy, man. Best $50 I ever spent on a welded diff. It's been like 4 years. He's hooked me up for sure. But yeah, so axle's good. I checked the hydro handbrake brackets and they're nice and tight. My lines, I do want to run my lines a little bit differently. They do kind of run close to the axle. You can kind of see some rubbing on the axle. But it hasn't rubbed through the line at all. There's no leaking, and I haven't had to replace my fluid or add any fluid to it. So that's one goal that I definitely want to do, is kind of just figure out a better route. I think instead of going under the axles, I should have went above the axles. But again, this was my first time ever doing this, and I'm pretty sure like no one actually had a write-up on the actual how to put the hydro handbrake Maverick Motorsports dual caliber brackets on. So, but yep, that looks good. All my control arms are tight. Nothing's been backed out, so that's good. Lower control arm here, good. Everything's kosher here, so that's good. So we're gonna move to the passenger side now. Tell my freaking tire, man, alignment's off, so I'm gonna have to get that fixed. Gonna have to go hit up Kenny, our buddy Kenny. It's a good thing that everything's like a 14 back here, so it makes things a lot easier. So as of right now, everything's pretty kosher. Everything's been intact and still ready to go, so that's good. We did have that little power steering issue and the cooling leak issue before, so two little minor things that were an easy fix, so that's good. So a few things that I'm definitely going to want to do over the off season. So like I said, fix those brake lines, drop the rear subframe, put some new diff bushings in, subframe bushings in. I already have them here ready to go. I just haven't put them in yet. I'm going to want to clean up the rear subframe, probably take off all the control arms, anti-seize them, get those back on, get my alignment fixed. There's quite a lot that I want to do to the car. So during the off season, when it starts to get cold out and stuff, it's going to be pretty nice. And especially like actually having a garage now, it'll make things a little bit easier just on me in general, because working, like, even though this isn't a heated garage, I can get a space heater in here and it'll be way better than actually just having it in the tent and just like it blowing like hot air outside of the tent, like you guys seen before, unfortunately, when I had to like paint everything and or sand everything and whatnot, and that was a nightmare. But as of right now, she looks great. I'm excited. October 31st can't come soon enough. Last event with the boys at Lebanon Valley Drift, and yeah, super excited about it. Obviously just got the daily wash, so have to show you guys the daily. I do want to do a little footage on the daily again with that AC conversion from R12 to R134A, and just to clean up the engine bay a little bit. It's still pretty dirty in there. I wish I just got the propel power at the time, and when I had the motor out, just cleaned everything, but I was lazy. And I wasn't really lazy because I rebuilt a whole motor with Andrew and Robbie and everybody and Zach. Again, I just want to reiterate to you guys that we are doing that 5,000 subscriber giveaway with D&D Performance Interior. So make sure that if you guys haven't hit that subscribe button, hit that subscribe button. Leave us some good feedback in the comments. See what you want to see. I'm thinking about doing a Q&A pretty soon. So if you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments. DM me your questions. And yeah, it'll be pretty cool to actually get to know me a little bit more. And if you want the guys involved, I can have all the guys sit together and socially distance and answer some questions for you guys. But with that being said, if you guys want to see any additional content, click one of these links here. And again, if you have not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button up here. Leave us some feedback. Until next time, guys. Peace.